Mr. Chairman.
The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Utah, Mrs. Love, for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. A few months ago, one of our cybersecurity experts here at the Congressional Research Center, Chris Jakarian, testified before the Senate Banking Committee about data security. He outlined the process by which organizations typically respond to a breach, and I'd like to unpack that a little bit and get your thoughts on various aspects. Mr. Jakarian said that there will be a delay between the discovery of an attack and public notification of that attack because the analysis of what's transpired would need to be conducted. This analysis will inform the entity of how they were breached and what data systems were compromised, is what he said. Now, I understand that clearly an organization needs to know what happened before they can accurately notify people who were affected by the breach. But can we say that there should be, this is obviously a theme that I think both sides of the aisle are incredibly concerned about. We hear it over and over, and it's asked in so many different ways. I can't even imagine, your heads must be spinning. But can we say that there should be general parameters on the timing of notification? Mr. Cooper, I knew you wanted to say something earlier. You pushed your button, so I'm going to let you go ahead and answer that question.
Thank you. Yes, so I think that the complexity of the breach is going to affect when notification can happen in an accurate way, and I think accuracy is really important. I think that it's important that the Federal Trade Commission and perhaps state attorney generals are able to enforce a reasonableness standard in terms of the time when notification is provided so that we can figure out the parameters of what is reasonable and make sure that companies are held to that, so that a standard of reasonableness with no enforcement isn't a real standard. A standard that allows enforcement and penalties when it's not met will help make sure that there's not delays that are unnecessary.
Okay, so there's some serious questions, for example, about the lack of notification regarding Equifax breach. I would like to get your thoughts, Mr. Taylor, on that, because I think one of the analogies that was expressed about pipe breaking into your home, I mean, to me, the difference is when information is released and what type of information is released. And I would tend to think that there would be some sort of information saying, you know what, there's a pipe that broke. We don't know how. We will give you further information later about that, but there's a problem, and we need to notify you of that problem. So I guess I would like to just get your thoughts about regarding the notification, for example, and the lag of notification, because that's the serious concern here.
I appreciate your concern, and while I can't speak to Equifax specifically, I think what the fundamental issue here is, when does the clock start ticking, right? And I walked through this in detail in my written testimony. You know, when does a company, quote, discover a breach, right? Is that the first awareness of a fact that later, with the benefit of hindsight, is concluded to have been related to the breach, or is it the moment that the company says something's wrong? We have an issue here. And my point is, the company there should be an expectation that a company expeditiously investigates to figure out what happened and restore the security of their systems. And that's, in my mind, when the clock should start ticking, once those steps have been done.
Okay, so when a breach occurs, should there be a specific time frame for notification established in law? Is there something that we should do to make sure that there is some sort of a time frame?
If by time frame you mean something like days or hours, I would say no. I think you should go with a standard that is, you know, as expeditiously as possible, or as, you know, as reasonably possible. I think you need a flexible standard, because all breaches are not created equal. Mm-hmm. They're very different.
Is it realistic to require that any company notify customers within a set number of days or whatever circumstance? I mean, is there some sort of reasonable standard that should be out there?
I think, again, it really depends. It depends on the facts, right? It's a company needs to know whose data was lost in order to be able to notify the right consumer, right? You don't want to notify the wrong consumer and unduly alarm them. So I have
just a few seconds, but I just wanted to say that We are here on behalf, I believe, I keep saying this, the branch of government that's closest to people is the House of Representatives. And we will not be doing our job if we are not looking out for the people whose intellectual property has been breached and released. So our job is to protect the people. It will always be that. And so I think it is our responsibility to make sure that there is something that is there that we can protect people when their information is out, is been breached. So
The time of